Welcome to another episode of REVXP Presents. I'm Chris Mann, the SVP of REVXP, the gaming-focused division of the global integrated sports marketing agency Revolution. And today we've got an incredible episode for you. I have got Scott Robinson, our client from Chipotle. What's up, Scott?
How you doing? Good to be here.
We've got Sajam, one of the voices of the fighting game community. What's up, Sajam?
Hey, how goes it? I hope you are both doing well.
So guys, this episode today, we've been talking about the Chipotle FGC campaign on and off for the last probably years that we've been doing this REVXP Presents. A lot of people, guests, have called it out. We've talked about like learnings that we've had and how they're applicable to brand marketers trying to activate within the gaming ecosystem. And so I figured, why not get Scott on? He's our day-to-day client. He's the one that makes all this happen. And we're going to get on the face. He went from the unofficial to official, essentially, face of Chipotle within the fighting game community and the voice. We've got Sajam. So quick intros. So Scott Robinson, Director of Brand Marketing at Chipotle. He's been with Chipotle for close to 20 years now. And he's really focused on partnerships across gaming, sports, and music. And then we've got Sajam, who is a content creator within the fighting game community. He's on-air talent, commentary, and he hosts major events such as EVO. Guys, did I miss anything? Great credentials.
I don't think so. Sajam, good to see you again. Good to be working with you again.
Yeah, nice to just chat for a bit and hang out.
Yeah, so it's great kind of to bring everybody together, especially like we're recording this about a month and a half before EVO. So we're on the heels of Chipotle Challenger Series with Tekken doing extremely well. And then now we're obviously planning what's going to be happening at EVO. Lots of things kind of behind the curtain that we're going to be sharing for the FGC folks here very soon. So as we get in to this conversation, we're going to be really focused on like, how should brands think about activating in gaming, and really specifically through the lens of an untapped, underserved community such as the fighting game community? There's plenty of brands out there that are activating in spaces like Call of Duty. There's, Fortnite, another Fortnite map, another Roblox map. But the fighting game community, what Chipotle's done over the last year plus, has really been groundbreaking. And so as we jump into that convo, we always like to start with a very simple question. So Scott, I'm going to start with you. What games have you been playing?
Well, this might be a little bit non-traditional. It's a little early, but I've been playing a lot of Madden with my 12-year-old son. He's a massive football fan, and great bonding time with him. Unfortunately, I can't beat him these days. So I used to think I was a good player, but he's got me now.
It's all right, Scott. We all have had our time in the in the sun. But there's a new game coming out soon, NCAA football. You could bring back the glory days.
Yep.
Sajam, what about you? I've got a feeling I know what it is, but you want to shed a little light on what you've been getting into?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of fighting games lately. So it's true. That's like always the main thing. But fighting games are kind of like both work and hobby. So then when I'm not playing them, when I'm not playing something like Tekken or not playing something like Street Fighter, I usually try to play something like completely different. So I tried Bellatra a bit, which is, I don't know if either of you have played it. It's like a poker roguelike game, and I don't know how to play poker. So like, I feel so lost playing the game because there's like all these wild cards, and like someone's like, oh, you have like a straight flush, you can just play that. And I'm like, yeah, I have a straight flush. And I'm like staring at the hands in my car, or the cards in my hand, and I'm like, okay. And I just don't even know what's what, So,
I think you got to figure out what a straight flush is, because that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Scott, are you a poker guy? I know Scott's a blackjack guy.
I play a little both, but.
All right. Well, we've got some time together there. We're going to spend a lot of time in Vegas. So, maybe Sajam could get some tips on playing poker. But I have heard of that game, and I don't need to be addicted to any other games because I heard that game is very addicting. I've been playing a lot of Hades, trying to catch up on the first one as the second one just came out, another roguelike game. And so that's been a lot of fun. And actually, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Fire Red with my son. He's 5. And we've got an old, kind of like an emulator device, and we've been kicking it. Like we just sit back, we'll play some Fire Red. We've got, the Max Evolved Charizard. And so it's been fun to I never got to play those games as a kid. I was a little older. So it's cool to play them now and kind of experience that with him. All right, guys. So let's jump into the meat of the convo and talk about how brands should think about activating, and really a lot of the key learnings and case studies that we've seen over the last year from Chipotle as they've entered into the FGC. But before we get there, Scott, would love to discuss, Chipotle over the last few years has really positioned yourself as a leading non-endemic brand in gaming. But really, what propelled the brand to enter the gaming space initially?
Yeah, I think initially it was just an understanding of, the media behavior of younger consumers. I mean, clearly we were seeing people move away from more traditional, entertainment sources and entertainment, traditional media. They were, moving towards streaming platforms and social media and things like that. So, look, we're always trying to meet the consumer and our customers where their passions are, and clearly that was, that was a move into gaming and gaming platforms. I think, we also know that our customers, we have a big segment of young folks. They're very digital savvy. And, they're a huge part of this community. So it was kind of like, why wouldn't we at that point? I think we kind of started with kind of this, looking at esports, but we really look at esports and gaming, the gaming lifestyle very differently. And we've leaned a lot more into the gaming lifestyle in terms of, working with creators who love Chipotle, not necessarily the heavy competition side of things, although obviously they all have a great place in the ecosystem. And it's worked for us, and kind of working with folks like Sajam who are, fans of the brand. So, it was kind of a logical, I think, progression for us once we kind of understood a lot of the habits of our customers, especially our younger ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing is obviously it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of brands think they can come into gaming and like jump in or jump out, or test here, test there. It really you have to show the community, and every community in gaming is different. The fighting game community is much different than the League of Legends community, and so on and so forth. We got to show those communities. You got to understand what those communities are interested in, and then you have to, how do you engage them and create that relationship? And it doesn't happen overnight. Chipotle's been activating in gaming. I've been working with you guys for close to 4 years. I think another couple of years before that. So that you're not a new brand to the space. It takes time. It takes time to get to this level, to get to that brand affinity, to that brand love. And I think that's important for brand marketers out there, to remember, is it does take time to enter a new space. And honestly, that's not different, right? Scott, you work a lot in sports as a new brand, whether you're entering the NHL or soccer, that's consistent as well, correct?
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say that it became very clear that, like, gaming was driving culture, and there was so much crossover with music, with traditional sports, if you want to call it that. And, it was clear that there was a groundswell, and it wasn't just something, a lot of people didn't know about. It was something that everyone was doing, and really a culture driver at that point. So, it was a natural fit. I mean, a lot of our social listening tools were showing that, we had a lot of fans in the space, and we always want to work with folks that are, authentic gets used a lot, but we want to work with folks that are authentic fans of the brand super fans. And, those are the ones we seek out to support in whatever they're doing, FGC or otherwise. So
brand super fans like Sajam, which we'll get to in a second, and then his love and fandom of Chipotle. But Scott, sticking with you, obviously, let's flash forward, right? Chipotle's been in gaming for about 4 or 5 years, and 2023, we're sitting late 2022, we're planning on what are we going to do for 2023? How are we going to be different? How are we going to really stand out, right? That's something core to Chipotle, being innovative, and not doing what everyone else does. And so obviously the FGC really rose to the top. And so as the brand looked to enter the FGC, what were some key strategic insights that really drove you towards this white space?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's exactly what you just said. It's white space. I think, when you look at the landscape, there is a lot of brand noise. There's a lot of logo soup, and logo soup, as I like to call it. And what the FGC kind of provided was an opportunity to come in and support the community, stand out more. I mean, we always want to be, whenever we come anywhere, we want to be additive. We want to stand out. And I think also the FGC community, and Sajam could speak to this, is maybe under supported in a lot of ways. And I think that, it was a good opportunity to come in and say, no, this has been around for a while. This is an amazing, passionate, loyal audience. And, they deserve the support just like any other genre. And so, it was just the right time at the right place. I think some of our research also showed just like that the Chipotle brand indexed very high, within the community. So it kind of checked the box of being a good brand fit. And I think also, the relationship with the publisher matters. I mean, a lot of publishers, they don't necessarily need brand deals. They don't really need brand partnerships. I think that, when you can find someone like Capcom, like Bandai, that like really want to sit down and say, all right, how can we do something innovative? How can we do something unique that is additive and, adds value to the community? it was clear we had sort of the right space, the right partner, at that time. And it wasn't just a logo slap. It was, we were supporting the community.
A true partnership is key in this space. And I think there are a lot of, like, as you hit on, like publishers, their business is very much different than the NFL, right? The NHL. They're, they may or may not need brands to come in, and it really depends on what they're looking to do and accomplish with brand marketers. And I think the big thing that you hit it on is like Capcom last year with Street Fighter was great partners. Huge shout out to Jacqueline and Joseph and the team over there. They were incredible partners, which is where we got introduced to Sajam and, really spearheaded Chipotle's entry into the space. And then this year, Lynn and Kareem and the team at Bandai have been fantastic to work with, in terms of really like trying to figure out how do we, their player base is all unique. Even Street Fighter to Tekken is a different community. What they want, what they value is very much different. And so, to your point, like having true partners that actually want to work collaboratively together to go beyond just, hey, you just don't want to put a brand logo in a game unless it makes sense. And, we've done a lot of kind of like, does it fit here? How's the community going to react to it? And we saw last year with Street Fighter, with the burrito backpack and how that kind of went viral. And we'll see what we got in store for this year. But, clearly the community enjoyed the content that was put in. So Sajam, appreciate you listening to kind of how the soup has been made. Mm-hmm. So now flash forward, right? You're one of the top voices in the fighting game community. You obviously seen brands come in and come out. And so we'd love to get your understanding as someone who's not only a content creator, but a member of this community. What are some things brand marketers should know about activating within the FGC?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, what makes somebody like interesting to come into the space, and it's not just like, oh yeah, there's another logo, another thing we got to talk about or whatever, because as someone who's working on the show, it's just another line of copy you're reading or something, right? Sometimes if it's not as involved. But for us, it's really just, if you want to step in and do something that is interesting and not just like, here's a ton of money and you forgot we exist, right? Like, I think that kind of stuff happens very often. And the other thing is whether it's somebody who wants to get involved in the ideas of making cool things happen, or if it's going to be like, you get the feeling from the minute you see their logo that they won't be around long, right? And I think Chipotle was like kind of none of those things. It was one of those things where you could tell they were interested in doing cool stuff, like kind of right from the gate. And I think it's important for any brand that's been successful in the space, Chipotle included, to have the feeling of like, okay, they're adding something here that's not just a logo and like nothing. They want to do fun stuff. They want to do interesting stuff. And there's so many ways to tackle the fighting game community. You could do it through individuals. You can do it through events. You can do it through games like, Street Fighter and Tekken. So it depends on what angle you want to take. And I think Chipotle has sort of done it from each step, right? They've kind of gone each of the places. And I think honestly, you could do any of them or all of them or whatever you'd like. But as a space, I think we're pretty easy to work with if you have cool ideas and you're down to do stuff and you talk to the right people. I don't think you'll have a lot of problems as long as you show up and you're down to have some fun and not take it too serious.
Obviously, the space loves their memes, and I think you hit on a couple things, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about the memes in a second, but I think you hit on something, right? Like last year we tried, and Scott and the team at Chipotle are always like, how do we feel like we belong in this space, right? Mm-hmm. Scott, like that's important to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, also just not to jump in, like to feel like we're jumping in and jumping out. I think, that's where Sajam was going a little bit with that. I think we had a very kind of robust calendar of ways to connect between, Combo Breaker and Evo and obviously like things around the launch, then our Chipotle Challenger series. And it was, and then the in-game activations that showed up. So it was, we were talking to the community, doing different things over a period of 6 to 9 months. So I think it felt like more of a sustained presence for the brand.
Which is a lot different than most activations in gaming. Most brands come in, they'll activate for a month, a couple weekends, and they'll be gone. But we legit had a 10-month calendar last year, which started with the Evo announcement show and ended, in November after the Capcom integration happened with Street Fighter 6. So it was a very robust calendar and hit on a lot of Chipotle initiatives that we were able to capitalize. And of course, we had those marquee moments, right? We had Combo Breakers. We had the launch of Street Fighter 6. We had Evo. We had the in-game content. Of course, we had our promotional offer around the launch of Street Fighter 6. And so there's a lot of like ebbs and flows. But when I went back and I looked at the data from our partners at YouGov, you saw when Combo Breaker happened. You saw when Evo happened because you saw the spikes in brand awareness, brand affinity, consideration, and most importantly, purchase intent throughout the duration of the campaign when we hit those big moments, which are all obviously keys to showing success, right? So obviously what was going on was working, and it was just how do we translate that and continue to grow it next year, which is this year. Sajam, speaking of brand love, right? The community has really leaned in on the Sajam Chipotle relationship. The Sajam Chipotle meme, which started when you partnered with us around the Carne Asada launch last year, and it kind of paid off for you, right? You went from unofficial, you're kind of the unofficial Chipotle guy in the community. You know, we partnered with you on Carne Asada to now you're an official partner of Chipotle. Can you speak a little bit to that and to the importance of the community aspect of really leaning in and like the voice of the community, the voice of your community essentially propelled you to that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from naturally before Chipotle was ever in the space, like years and years ago, I was like, yeah, I love Chipotle, guys. Like, I'm eating Chipotle. This is what's happening. And I would tell a lot of stories about it. And so naturally, when they showed up in the space, I think people were like, oh, it's finally happening. You know, it's your chance. This is it right there. It was kind of like you see like someone across the bar and you're like, yo, that's you right there. And you're nudging someone, you know, it was sort of that vibe of like, oh, they're finally in the room. You should go talk to them. So yeah, I mean, I think people were genuinely excited about it. And you saw so many fun things too, not even just related to me exactly, but the ad coming on at Evo and people cheering for it. They're like, oh my God, Chipotle. You know, people are down to have fun and enjoy things like that, I think, in the space, especially when the feeling of them being around is like a good feeling, right? It's not like, you know, exactly what you guys mentioned. It's not that they're just showing up, slapping a logo on something, giving you some money and then disappearing, but, you know, a partner who wants to work with you for a long time. So I think when you have that feeling, it's more, you know, it's easier to be a little bit excited about it. And yeah, the memes growing and becoming more popular and people like creating controllers with me holding a Chipotle bowl on it and things like that. I mean, those things just you can't like make that happen without natural interest and fun. I think in the brand and like what they're doing and then what I'm doing and what the community's doing. You sort of can't create these things unless people just think they're funny and want to do them. So you sort of have to have like a stroke of like everything sort of coming together perfectly for something like that to exist. And I don't know, I'm very happy that it did.
Hey, shout out to the guy who used the Chipotle carne asada meme as his fight stick. Hopefully we see that guy at Evo and we can get a picture with you at the Chipotle booth with him.
Yes.
And that was a great one. We need that. Scott, Sajam hit on something really interesting, right? He was talking about Chipotle for years. And, you know, I think it's important maybe to share with the brand marketers out there. You know, you mentioned super fans, but like, what is the first question you always ask us when we bring you new talent?
Yeah. I mean, what's your go-to order? Because that's one of the great things about Chipotle is like, you know, everyone knows what they get. I mean, sure, people switch it up a little bit, although many don't. But you know, it's like, what's your go-to at Chipotle? Because you can kind of tell right away, you know, is this a true fan? And you know exactly what you just said, Sajam. It's like we that organic interest and love in the brand is something we certainly take notice of. And we just sponsored Taylor Fritz, the tennis player, and Max Homa, the PGA golfer, and all of that started with a lot of talk of like them stopping by and putting it on Instagram stories. And it's like, it's just this logical progression. And then when it happens, their community is psyched about it because it just makes too much sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That paid off. Years in the making, Sajam. All those burritos came back. So, all right, let's, as we wrap up here, takeaways, biggest surprises, Scott, obviously great 2023 with the FGC. We already talked about, Sajam mentioned the Chipotle chance at Evo, but what was your biggest surprise in activating Gear One?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise probably is that, you know, comparatively to maybe some other genres, you know, FPS and stuff, you know, we were able to find the scale and achieve the goals that we wanted to from a scale perspective. I think because this community is so loyal, it is so passionate, they show up, you know, when you're doing things the right way. And that was clear. You know, we were able to, you know, with a strategic plan of amplification and then just the community's, you know, passion and again, showing up and just this engaged fan base. You know, I think it was, I don't want to say it was like a surprise, but we had no idea, right, kind of what would happen, and it you know more than kind of met our expectations. So we found this community to be, you know, more engaged and receptive, just based on kind of the way we approached it and the way we tried to ingrain ourselves in the community, and it's been a great 2 years, and looking forward to more.
That's awesome. Scott, any takeaways for brand marketers out there watching how to activate in gaming, especially with new communities like the FGC, getting into a new space, right? Like branching out beyond what everyone knows, right? The big titles. Like, what would you say to them as maybe they're concerned?
Yeah. I mean, there's probably like 3 off the top of my head. I think the first one is just like, and we've talked a little about like speaking their language, right? Each has its own vibe, its own terminology, its own culture. You know, we had some fun kind of coming up with the promo codes the last couple times. So for Street Fighter, we did one that was HDKN with a couple numbers for, you know, as a nod to Hadouken. And then more recently, the EWGF with the Electric Wind Godfist. And, you know, it's subtle, but it's like, it's kind of speaking the language and trying to have fun and be part of the community. So I think just speaking the language, I think we talked about added value being additive. I mean, that's just something we always think about. How can we, yes, show up, but how can people get something from the brand, have something to talk about. I think, this year we had a lot of success. The Chipotle Challenger Series has been around for a long time, but, this year it was actually our biggest of all time, which is pretty remarkable considering some of the other titles we've done it with, and that it was a PS5 only title. And so, an amateur won it, and they got a full expenses paid trip to Evo, kind of an amazing trip of a lifetime. And so, that's just an example of just kind of, always making sure that we're having fun, we're adding value to the community. I think the other thing is what we just talked about. It's finding creators organically, personalities, people in these different communities that love your brand first, because then when you want to tell a story with them, it just makes way too much sense, to their community. So, just kind of touching on that again, that's been a formula that has just led to a lot of success for us with, personalities across all, musicians, athletes, whatever the case may be. And I would just, when you have that brand love, it just works. And so that's a big one for us.
Awesome. Yeah. And obviously, I think the big thing is, we've continued to try to find ways to think differently outside the box. Even the thing we just did with Disguised Toast and Disguised, and Sajam was part of it, where, Disguised Toast, one of the biggest creators, and brought in his team from Offline TV, and his esports team signed their first, fighting game player for Tekken. They're going to be at Evo. Then Sajam jumped on with them on the Creator Clash when, Lily and Skara and Box and all these big creators are playing Tekken, and it was partnered in collaboration with Chipotle. Right, it wasn't just the logo stuff; like it was very integrated. So there's really cool experiences. Even supporting Sajam with his Sajam Slam. Like these are all things that are inherently adding value that are happening, or we're trying to help happen within the community and be entertaining, right? And so those are ways for brand marketers out there, think differently, think outside the box, try to activate. Sajam,
one more thing on that is just also like Sajam, working with you or others to be like, what do you want to do? Instead of coming and saying like, we've got this idea or we should do, like I want to do a lot more just from the ground up. Like, what is something you want to get off the ground that the community is going to love, and how can we, again, be additive to that? So that's just definitely something, the way we're looking at it these days as well.
Yeah, it was a big part of our conversation with Sajam months ago, and I think you'll see that start to to unroll, as that partnership gets going. Sajam, as we close this out, anything to add in terms of surprises, in terms of activating brands like Chipotle and the FGC?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing is that, as you guys both mentioned, right, is that the conversation was always like, how do we help make something happen that you don't normally get to do, right? Is there like something that you're interested in doing, but it's hard to do because of, some other reason that we can come in and help? And that's always a really nice feeling, particularly for me, because I mentioned that I like Chipotle as a brand, right? And I've had many opportunities to work with other brands. And it's nice, but it's like never people that I'm interested or in wanting to work with, because it's not like a product or a brand that I'm, like kind of gung ho about. So the feeling of not only like a brand that I'm interested in, but also like, how do we just help you? Like, it's not like, hey, show up, you wear like a hat that has our logo, you wear like a shirt that has our logo, you stand there and say like, the script or whatever. It's like, how do we do something cool and like something that makes sense? So having conversations from that lens from the start is a really nice feeling. But yeah, and how people embrace it, I think, is really cool. And not only that, but I mean, I'm just excited that it came out with Street Fighter, and then it just followed up with a Tekken launch, and the interest and excitement for it seems extremely high. And then I think a lot of people are really excited for Evo this year as well, since it's going to be such a big one. You guys are involved again, and then CB is this weekend, of course. So just a lot of fighting game things happening. And Chipotle has been super fun to work with, and then pretty much open to any of my suggestions. I feel like everything that I've suggested all kinds of stuff, and everybody's been like, wait, that sounds kind of good. Like, it's always just been like, wait a minute, you might be onto something, which is a really nice feeling, I think.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, Sajam, last thing as we head out, obviously you mentioned Combo Breakers this weekend. Chipotle is a partner there. You'll be out there, and I'm sure those that follow the fighting game scene will be tuning in. But the big show's coming up, new venue, bigger venue. Chipotle is the presenting partner of Evo. Got to wear my Evo shirt as we talk about the FGC. But what are some things that you're excited about this year with Evo, besides coming and hanging out at the Chipotle booth?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited because a new game, right? Tekken's going to be there. So it's exciting. And Street Fighter will have huge numbers again. So it's always fun whenever there's a new game at Evo because it's kind of almost like it needs to be minted there. You know what I mean? You got to see like the first big offline competition. So I'm excited for Evo for that reason. Excited to see the new venue, the new space, and more space to run around and hang out with everybody. And you mentioned, you guys are sending some people out to Evo. I'm going to be sending some people out to their first Evo. And the wild thing about Evo is that every year the numbers are so huge, and yet almost every person that comes up to me says, "Well, this is my first time at Evo." And so the amount of people that every year say, "Yeah, I wasn't interested in Evo, but I watched this last year or this year or whatever," and I was like, "I'm gonna go out and do it." So meeting new people and saying like hi to them at their first Evo. When I've been going there, this year will be a decade since the first time I ever went to Evo, so it's a pretty cool experience, and it's like it never loses its magic. I feel like it's one of those events that's always really fun for me to go to.
It's not an esports event. I mean, it is. It's a competition, but it's a community gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yes,
it
sure.
just feels like a big grassroots gathering of Evo, and they've gotten more money and funding and made it less grassroots in ways that are important and stuff. But also, it still does feel like just a big grassroots offline gathering. It's an open bracket. Anybody can enter. You guys can enter. Anybody watching or listening can enter. Like, yeah, it's a pretty unique event.
That last year was my first time, so I'm looking forward to the second year just with like a slightly different lens. Like last year, it was just I was just soaking it all in, just feeling the positive energy from everybody, and just a lot of people having fun. And so I'm looking forward to year 2 as well.
It's awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for your time. It's almost 30 minutes that we've been chatting FGC, Evo, and Chipotle's brand partnership. So appreciate your time in the busy schedule. As we wrap, thank you guys so much for tuning in and sticking with us throughout the episode. Hopefully you learned about how a brand like Chipotle has not only started and entered the gaming space, but then changed their strategy to enter a new space, a space that's underserved, such as the fighting game community, and really been embraced and shown that brand love while still hitting brand KPIs like impressions, engagement, brand positive social sentiment, and others, purchase intent. All of those things are skyrocketing. That's of course why we're back for year 2. And, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll be having this conversation next year, as Chipotle looks to continue their conversation with the FGC. And so guys, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. To our partners at Synopsys, thank you for the distribution. And until next time, have some fun, play some fighting games, and we'll see you next time. Thanks everybody.
Thanks for having me.